And I will now give the floor to Henk, who has the same difficult last name as I have, Van Schaik, which only people here in the Netherlands can pronounce properly, who will continue with the final wrap-up session. And then I also noticed that Director General for International Cooperation has already entered. So then we will close the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise, for moderating this session, the reporting back session. And I also like to welcome the Director General of the Minister of Foreign Affairs with a word of thanks for the generous support to this conference. Thank you very much. On the point of making our information discussions available, there is online already online emissions through YouTube and through the water channel. So that's number one. Number two, there are going to be the proceedings. And number three, there are ideas about articles and also including capacity building programs and scientific books. You may wonder, just before me there was Louise van Schaik, now there is Henk van Schaik. What's happening? Well, I can tell you we are not directly related. We haven't figured out how far, maybe before or after, just after the Reformation, because I know that Louise is not a Catholic. This is not a disqualification, but another one, we are quite an international community, the Van Schaiks. In Russia they are called Tchaikovsky. This is just to be very modest. Now it's my pleasure to ask Alexandros, because Alexandros, I asked him, hold your fire. There was a lot of complaint about the policies and the politicians, etc., and he was sitting next to me trying to jump into the discussion and rectifying it, because the European Council has just adopted a conclusions document on water policy and water diplomacy. Alexandros, maybe you can say a few words about this for Peter's sake and maybe for more in this room.
Thank you. Well, this summer, in a way, the European Union has inaugurated a new foreign policy area called water diplomacy. And I will not go into the semantics, whether it's old and what it means. The important thing is that for the first time at the level of foreign ministers, at the political level in that sense, there was a discussion and there was the adoption of a position common to all member states about the principles and the objectives of the European Union engagement on water diplomacy. A first key element is that water diplomacy, it is about linking various areas such as water, energy, climate change, food, what is also often called the nexus, together, and trying to address them in a comprehensive way. This is one first element of a key element of the EU water diplomacy. A second key element is that it is the political dimension that comes forcefully at the center of this debate. So the European Union has had for a long time a major engagement on water, but primarily through development and environment perspectives. Now politics come to join these other perspectives, and the focus of water diplomacy is to link the dots between these separate areas of policy. Now, a third element is that the focus is water cooperation at transboundary level. So the focus is international shared waters and how to promote cooperative, collaborative and sustainable solutions. I won't add anything more other than saying that it has both a regional and a global dimension as well. Regional in the sense that it is river-based, river basin-based, where it needs, and there are specific priority areas that have been identified. And you won't be surprised that some of these areas are the Nile, the Central Asia, the Mekong, some of the most complicated and demanding areas on water issues, on transboundary water issues. But also there is the global dimension, which is the promotion of water cooperation based at international agreements, the international water conventions, as well as global level partnerships. Because the European Union will only be able to deliver if it works at the global level with other key players. I hope this summarizes where we are.
Well, thank you very much. There is also a question on the nexus, but let's leave that because time is running out. And then I'd like to ask Teresa, just as a diplomat. You are a diplomat. We've been talking about diplomacy. Can you just give a little insight in how you perceive, maybe also towards the future, what the changes are for diplomats in dealing with water issues, and how you maybe also personally make it happen?
Well, thank you. I can stand over here. I work for the government, but within an agency, so I implement government instructions and political decisions. I've been working in Africa for many years, implementing decisions and conventions, as we have been discussing. My experience is that when including formal diplomats in water cooperation, you really need to think very careful actually at what level you include and which type of diplomat. Are we going to ask our ambassador to come to a stakeholder meeting, which will probably give a very special message to the participants, or should we invite him or her to a different setting? I think I have two issues that I would like to stress here today. And firstly, I see there is a huge potential for diplomats to really assist our partners in at the higher political level in the countries where we work and support, to interpret agreements, conventions, joint documents, treaties, and to really speak the language of the politicians. That's the first thing. The second thing, and which I haven't heard here during these 2 days, sorry, I've been here for 3 days, is that we sometimes underestimate the role of riparian diplomats. My experience from Southern Africa is that in one case, one riparian country and the diplomats from that country made a huge input into getting an agreement signed. We as Sweden supported that discussion, facilitated the meetings, but from a distance. So we sometimes forget that riparians really play a key role in terms of mediators and negotiators.
Well, thank you very much. This is great. Thank you. We had actually quite a few diplomats in the conference. So, and then the third person I would like to just ask for a brief reflection is Mr. Giuseppe Raibaldi. He is the chair of the Task Force Peace of the Rotary The Hague Municipality. Is that correct, sir? Metropolitan, sorry. Please, you have, yes.
Okay. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation. As you might realize from the introduction, I'm totally an outsider for this kind of forum, but I spent 2 days quite interesting. And the reason why I was asked to be here is that to explain not what Rotary is doing, but what is the connection between Rotary, war and peace. Many of you might know, but so I would like to spend very few minutes, seconds to explain to you. So first of all, you know what Rotary is, I assume. One check I wanted to do is to ask in this room how many people are belonging to the Rotary. Can you raise the hand, people belonging to the Rotary?
Many potential new members.
So I think this is, I didn't expect so bad, but I think it is even worse. So, well,
not a disqualification, but it's a mission for you.
No, it's not a disqualification. It's just an interesting piece of information. So Rotary, as you know, is a humanitarian organization, is worldwide, has got 1.2 million of people around the world with 34,000 Rotary clubs. There is even an application software that you can find yourself where you are, and they will tell you where the Rotary close to you is. The core activity of the Rotary are basically humanitarian service support as well as support to peace. And so let's come to close what is the subject of this conference, which is peace and water. So what is Rotary doing? So as far as peace is concerned, Rotary has 8 peace centers around the world, in Europe as well as abroad, and has got several universities in partnership, and this means that Rotary is financing several hundreds of Rotary fellowships all over the world. And so this is, I would say, an important contribution. Peace is one also of the main elements of last Rotarian here. We had the pleasure to have the former president of Rotary here in Holland in the occasion of the 100th year of the Peace Palace because of ceremony, and we had a philanthropy workshop, as you know, here. So I think this is definitely, and of course, one of the major service area is peace through service. So Rotarian, with their example, are basically trying to foster that. The other important element is water. What is the relation with water? Water is, there is a lot of basically project which Rotary funds at the level of local Rotary, in particular in the area of water purification, water walls. So I didn't hear during this discussion, but water is the #1 killer in the world concerning people which are dying. So it's a very surprising number, but this is apparently the #1 because of the quality or non-quality of the water. So this is an element that maybe was not attached, at least in the part that I've seen. The other important concrete element of the water is that the Rotary Foundation, which is basically the branch, the philanthropic branch of the Rotary, has a team up with UNESCO, which is the next speaker, and they have founded a number of fellowship, 16 fellowship, and in fact our president was here in Delft last year to basically inaugurate this cooperation which is between Rotary Foundation and UNESCO. And this, of course, will continue. Now, just to wrap up, just coming close home, with the Rotary The Hague Metropolitan is one of the club which, the club I am part, and in the task force is an English-speaking club, 25 different nationality, and our activity are also dealing with peace, and that's the reason why we have this peace task force. We are partnering with a number of NGOs, and we have started this with GPPAC, which is the global partnership for prevention of armed conflict. We will have a fundraising event with them on the 20th of February. We have also a number of events in the near future. So we are really trying to foster basically a number of activities also locally here with The Hague, which is basically the capital. Just to conclude, this meeting will give me the opportunity to bring back some of the findings and ideas that I had of this workshop when our task force will meet to make some concrete proposal or how to improve the already existing partnership between the Rotary as well as the activity, in particular the water consortium that you are setting up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if you need any speakers on the fundraising activity, you know where to find us. Thank you. Then I'd like to invite Lena Salamé, the representative of UNESCO Paris, the main UN organization organizing the International Year of Water Cooperation. And Lena, you have a message to tell us.
Yes. Okay. Your Excellency, Mr. Director General, everyone, colleagues and friends, in light of what happened yesterday evening, I would like to stress that I am not the ghostwriter behind the statement that I'm going to read. Okay? So this is a message from the director of our Division of Water Sciences, Mrs. Blanca Jimenez Cisneros, who would like to convey the following. UNESCO was appointed by UN Water to lead the preparation for both the 2013 International Year of Water Cooperation and the World Water Day on Water Cooperation in collaboration with the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. UN Water indeed called upon UNESCO to lead this year in view of the organization's multi-dimensional mandate and its significant and long-standing contribution to the management of the world's freshwater resources. Water touches upon all aspects of life, and this understanding is rooted in UNESCO's core mandate and overarching vision for the creation of a culture of peace through the promotion of dialogue among nations. By assisting its member states in preventing conflicts and promoting dialogue, UNESCO creates an important basis for water cooperation. In the last 20 years, the organization has paved the way to the concept of water diplomacy. Through its different programs devoted to freshwater resources, such as IHP and the World Water Assessment Program, its water-related centers, such as UNESCO IHE, just mentioned by Giuseppe, and other Category 2 centers, the last born was the one in Stockholm, and its network of chairs, the organization provides the scientific basis for water-related decision-making. Through one of IHP's associated programs with the World Water Assessment Program, which is the PCCP program, the organization provides support needed in cooperation processes through building capacities, research, and dispute resolution and cooperation building. Another program of IHP is the Internationally Shared Aquifer Resources Management, for ISARM for friends, is developing a thorough and multidisciplinary assessment of transboundary aquifers globally, thus contributing to their peaceful and sustainable management. UNESCO is actively supporting several activities on water governance as well, with several partners such as the GEF, the Global Environment Facility, and the OECD. It is also providing jointly with UNECE support to member states outside of the UNECE region that wish to join the 1992 convention. She would like to highlight at this point a crucial leap forward. At the last meeting of the parties of the UNECE Water Convention held in Rome in 2012, the UNECE indeed fully integrated model provisions on transboundary aquifers, taking full attention to all transboundary systems, both surface and groundwater. The international community increasingly recognizes the importance of peacefully managing shared natural resources, in particular water resources, and this conference brought a fundamental contribution towards the promotion of this awareness. Developing a solid understanding of the main ingredients required for good governance, good water governance, is essential if we want to succeed in sustainably and effectively managing our water resources. Governance of transboundary waters is especially important because it adds an extra layer of international complexity and needs to be combined with a high degree of diplomacy and political sensitivity and readiness. We hope that the messages formulated during the year will feed into the global debate on the post-2015 agenda, and that the stamp of the year will survive beyond the year itself to be reflected in the Sustainable Development Goals. We need to look at the management of water resources in a holistic fashion. We need to raise awareness about the risk of not responsibly protecting our water resources, both surface and groundwater. The future phase of IHP, the International Hydrological Program, that will start in 2014 and will end in 2021, will focus on water security responses to local, regional, and global challenges. IHP is looking at the results of this conference and stands ready to pledge its full support for the implementation of its outcomes and its future in its future phase in order to contribute to the implementation of concrete activities on water diplomacy. Mrs. Cisneros is delighted to invite you all to participate in the closing ceremony of the International Year of Water Cooperation that will take place in Mexico on 5 and 6 December 2013. On this occasion, she will convey the messages of today's event, if you so wish, to the delegates convened in Mexico as a contribution to the global effort on water cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This conference is recognized also on the website of the International Year Water Cooperation as a contribution to the International Year, as actually was the big event here in the Peace Palace on World Water Day on the 21st of March. The last speaker I'd like to invite is Mark Smith, the director of IUCN. Oh, sorry, Mark, I saw you in the back before. But Mark is the leader for the thematic process towards World Water Forum 7 in Korea, Republic of South Korea, in 2015. Mark, how is water diplomacy going to be on the agenda? Can you say something about that?
Sure. Well, I can update you on the process that's underway for putting together the 7th World Water Forum, and then how we might, the group here, and how we might start thinking about engaging with that process. So, as Henk has said, I'm the co-chair of the thematic process. So, we have been working over the last 2-3 months on putting together the thematic framework. And for those that have been involved for the forum, and for those that have been involved in previous World Water Forums, you know, that's basically the starting point for how to organize things and creating the right spaces in which things get discussed. So that framework will be finally approved in the coming few days, we hope, by the International Steering Committee for the Forum. And we will not be surprised if in the final framework there is a theme relating to water cooperation and peace, building upon what was done in fact in Marseille in the last forum. So that will all become very clear hopefully in the coming just few days. The International Steering Committee is working on that. Then the next step in the process of starting to build that process will be the second stakeholder meeting, which takes place at the end of February in Korea, 27th and 28th of February. And that's the point at which the different groups that will start organizing the different thematic activities will start to be galvanized. And it's from there, very quickly after that, we will hope that different institutions and different groups put up their hands and say, we want to lead a particular theme, or we want to lead a particular sub-theme and set of sessions. And from the point of view of the thematic commission, this is the most important goal line that we're looking for, because we need people to say, we're willing to work. This process depends on institutions and people being willing to put in the time to work. Otherwise, the whole thing does not succeed. So the message then to this group, and thinking about how to take what has been done in this conference into that process, is to say to yourselves, am I willing to work in the forum? In which case you will be, without question, made extremely welcome. And then what do you want to work on and who do you want to work with? Looking forward to February, as I say, that's when, because you really need that second stakeholder meeting to be the push that launches those processes. But in the meantime, it would be very helpful for us to hear from you with your expressions of interest about, we're really interested in becoming strongly engaged in this process, because from our point of view, we need that to make our lives much easier. So the final point then to your question is, there is going to be a very good opportunity to take forward what's being discussed here into that forum process, especially if people here are willing to work on it with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not going to ask commitment, but I didn't hear any boos. So I think you are probably right if you take this conference as a positive sign for your theme on water and diplomacy. Thank you very much, Mark. All the best. That's the applause. All the best to you and the preparations for the thematic process. It's now my pleasure to invite the Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to give us a few concluding observations or remarks. Mr. Zwartpol.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Shaikovic. Spasiba большое. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I guess I'm the last hurdle towards some well-deserved drinks. That's always a sort of a bad situation to be in. But if you bear with me some more minutes, thank you for that. I think that the discussions of the past 2 days on peace and water security have taken place, and of course you notice that all in a very historic setting. It's historic here in The Hague, because The Hague is the seat of the government and the parliament of the Netherlands, and that is a country with a long history of managing water, as you all know. And The Hague is also associated with peace and justice. The Peace Palace, which celebrated its centennial this year, is recognized around the world as a symbol of international justice. And you might know it's also home to the Permanent Court of Arbitration, which has ruled on international water disputes, such as the diversion of river water between India and Pakistan, as an example. So there is a connection between peace, water, and The Hague. I see a lot of familiar faces here. Now, the World Economic Forum recently underscored the importance of water, ranking water scarcity as the second biggest threat to global prosperity. Now, we all know, of course, and you know even better than I do, that water is critical to almost everything we do. We need it to produce food and energy, we need it to sustain life on Earth, but water can also be a cause of devastation. Floods and droughts affect more people than all other natural disasters combined. The recent typhoon in the Philippines is a devastating example of the deadly impact that floods can have. At the same time, fresh water is becoming increasingly scarce. Water scarcity already affects more than 40% of the world's population across every continent, and the situation will only get worse in the decades ahead. By 2030, our annual global water requirements will exceed current sustainable supplies by as much as another 40%. And climate change will cause many glaciers to shrink or disappear. Just yesterday, maybe you saw it in your hotel room, CNN reported about separation of a Singapore-size iceberg from the Antarctica's Pine Island Glacier. Water scarcity can also lead to security issues, and you've been talking to that a lot the last 2 days. And in the words of the Director General of UNESCO, Irina Bokova, if we fail today, we make water an instrument of peace. It might become a major source of conflict tomorrow. Now, the US intelligence community assessment published a study concluding that over the next 10 years, water problems like water shortages and poor water quality and floods will contribute to instability in many states. There are also some development and humanitarian issues. It was already mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, but one shocking statistic is that every minute 4 people die from a lack of safe water and adequate sanitation. And unfortunately, most of them are children. And we should keep in mind, of course, that water is also an essential element of economic growth. Water is needed for energy and industrial growth. And we see now that in some regions, in India, for instance, groundwater tables have dropped to such an extent that coal-fired power plants are not longer economically viable. Water is crucial for our security and development and for our economies. So our common future is linked to water, or the lack thereof, and the urgent need for water cooperation. In the Netherlands, we have responded to this challenge by focusing on water diplomacy, the theme of this meeting. We have organized several international meetings, actually. We are active in the EU and the United Nations, and we work with all the stakeholders involved. We are increasingly active in transboundary water projects, and the ambassador of Afghanistan and myself, we have just discussed that recently, so he's a real expert. And it was also mentioned on World Water Day in March this year in The Hague, we celebrated the International Year of Water Cooperation and held extensive international consultations. And that resulted in an outcome document that reaffirms the importance of an ambitious water goal within the post-2015 development agenda. And that goal should continue and complete the work that was started under the Millennium Development Goals. We will continue to work, the Netherlands, for clear targets on integrated water management, water quality, resilience to water disasters, and access to water and sanitation. And the question if it should be sort of a separate target as a silo, or to mainstream it, to square that circle is, well, we still have some months and years to go, but that's not an easy one. That's on our agenda as well. We consider water a global public good. More and more, we are approaching water scarcity from a geopolitical perspective. This raises new diplomatic challenges and calls for a nexus approach. The Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs has adjusted its organizational structure so that the divisions dealing with water, energy, natural resources and climate are now all part of a single department dealing with global issues. And in a few months, we're working on a reorganization right now. In a few months' time, they will be joined by food security experts as well. Now, this will strengthen, we hope, the nexus between these different fields, because decisions in one resource area may require trade-offs or provide benefits in other areas. This means, for instance, more focus on the connection between water, food, energy, climate and ecosystems, and more focus on the transboundary characteristics of water. Now, this meeting has contributed to a better understanding of water diplomacy. It has brought together you, representatives of governments, NGOs, academia, think tanks, and other institutions. This is the year of water cooperation, and I believe that this conference has added a new chapter to other events on this theme, and that's why we are so proud to be sponsor of this event. So, in closing, I would like to thank the Water Diplomacy Consortium, the Netherlands Institute for International Relations Klingendaal, the Hague Institute for Global Justice, the Water Governance Center, UNESCO IHE Institute for Water Education, and the University for Peace, The Hague, for all their efforts to make this a successful event. And I thank you all for coming to the Netherlands and for your participation. And after 100 years, the Peace Palace is still living up to its mandate, providing a venue where we can discuss all aspects of peace, including one that will become ever more crucial in the years ahead: water. Thank you very much.
Patrick is now going to, we have been working very closely together. Patrick, you are going to say the last words.
Yes, I don't want to keep you away from the reception. The drinks are waiting outside, but just a few words. Before we close the conference, I believe the conference has been an important stepping stone in addressing the growing needs for conflict prevention and conflict resolution in the water sector. And I would like to thank you all for your great contributions and also for sharing your valuable knowledge. I also would like to thank our financial supporters, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also the City of The Hague and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Environment for their support to our conference. And then finally, I would like to thank all the volunteers, the supporting staff and the organizing team for making this conference a success. And as a token of my appreciation, I would like to ask Ms. Ting Zhang to come forward. And she will actually, I have ordered a very bouquet of flowers for you, and I'm not sure whether this is the bouquet that has been delivered. I will have a look. No, there's a smaller version of that one. Considering that the fact that we only started to organize the conference 4 months ago, I believe the organizing team has done a great job. So especially Henk van Schaik also for sharing the conference and the organization in general and all the partners of the Water Diplomacy Consortium. Thank you very much. The organizing team, thank you very much. Ding Zhang, this is for you. Congratulations. The drinks are available. Thank you very much.
Ik wou je nog even.